This relationship between the Kurds and the Kabbalah Jews goes back thousands of years. Yes. This isn't new. This isn't like in the last couple months, the Israelis have become heartbroken over the Kurds. It doesn't even go back decades or even a century. It goes back several thousand years. Right. It goes back to Solomon.
Yes, yes. You look at this, the Solomon connection, looking further into the specifics of this. I was able to find at least 6 different books that have covered this. This is number 6 for Control. And part of this is, what is being claimed? This is just what's being claimed. George Rawlings, who was a 19th century scholar, he identified the Kurds as the Kurdian people. Now, according to these books, what they do is they source Jewish rabbis, Jewish historians, Jewish basically scholars to say that the origins of the Kurdian people is a marriage of jinns, referring to genies, that were basically under the employment or under the control of King Solomon. This is what they believe. Now, they claim that King Solomon dispatched 500, these jinns to recruit and to grab 500 beautiful Jewish women from Europe. These were European Jews. They claim that when they brought this back, it was going to be like a king's harem. The king was already dead. So the jinns then took these women off to the mountains and settled, and they married these women, and the offspring was the Kurds. Right. That's the fable.
Okay, yeah, no, there's nothing biblical about this at all.
No, nothing biblical to it.
But we do know that Solomon went off the deep end and went into sorcery and Babylonian secret knowledge and all kinds. That's why the Masons
revere him.
Yes, that's why the Masons have been so fascinated, so obsessed with
archaeological digs
in Israel, because of they are convinced that Solomon had possession of secret knowledge. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you this, but I did tell Doc this. So I was doing some research over the weekend, and I came across, all right, the man, all right, I'm giving away some information. I should save it. A friend of John Nelson Darby, a close associate of John Nelson Darby, the inventor of the rapture doctrine. Okay. Darby's friend, his name was, I want to say Robert Anderson. Robert Anderson was the deputy commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Scotland Yard in the 1800s. He was the top police official in charge of the Jack the Ripper investigation. Right. And a lot of people blame Anderson for bungling the investigation because it was actually a conspiracy. It was a deliberate mishandling of the investigation to cover up a Freemason involvement that also included the monarchy, the royal family. Okay, so that's a whole other story. But Anderson's boss at Scotland Yard, his last name was Warren. He was a 33rd degree Freemason, and he led a scientific expedition to Jerusalem in the 1860s, and he excavated under the Temple Mount. Under the Temple Mount, he found Zedekiah's cave, and he held convened what's called a moot, M-O-O-T, a moot lodge. They had a Freemason lodge underground under the Temple Mount, and to this day, it's still there, called the Warren Lodge. And it hit me, Edward, over the weekend.
With Mike Pompeo and Minister Netanyahu.
When they all went, and remember when they took President Bolsonaro of
Brazil? He was freaked out. It was the Golden Globe.
He looked so creeped out. Okay, I think where they took them was Warren's Lodge, the Freemason Lodge.
Yes,
it's under the Temple Mount.
Yes, and it's set up like a lodge. The pictures we've seen of lodges that had the pews facing each other, and just
Bolsonaro had this look on his face like, I just want out of here. I don't want to look. I don't want to see what's in here.
I came here just for weapons contracts.
I'm creeped out. I want to go. I want to go. I just want to get out of here. I think that's where they took him, to the Masonic Lodge. Okay, so it goes back to Solomon. Right. The Masons, Freemasons, revere King Solomon. That's why the Masonic lodges are built around a temple. That's the driving force for a third temple is Freemasons and Kabbalah Jews. There's not really much difference, okay? You got Freemason Gentiles and you got Kabbalah Jews. They're all Freemasonry, all right? It's all one.
Yes.
That's the purpose for the third temple. So when you hear all these evangelical Zionists, going gaga for a third temple, just say Freemason. Just stamp Freemason on their forehead. Next time you hear or see an evangelical Zionist on religious TV, Googling over the idea of a temple, just write Freemason on their forehead, because that's what they are. They're Freemasons. I used to give them a break, Doc. I used to say they're just misinformed. They got this idea about, I don't say it anymore. No, they're Freemasons. They're servants of the devil. That's what they are. They're knowingly, purposely, deliberately serving Satan. I'm not cutting them a break anymore. They're Freemasons.
And there's reports of the 33rd degree, the top level, that they literally renounce Jesus Christ. If they haven't done it already,
they did it long before they got the
10th degree, probably.
They did it long before they get to the 33rd degree. They know what they're doing. They know that they're worshiping Lucifer. They know exactly what they're doing. They are children of the devil. They are children of the devil. Jesus said, "Your father is the devil." He wasn't just poking at them, trying to tick them off. He read their mail. He told them, "I know who you are. I know where you came from. I know who produced you."
Yes.
Lucifer.
Yes.
All right? And so we're talking about genies, demons, Nephilim babies, that this is, again, this is not biblical. This is what, according to a number of books about ancient mythology, this is where
These were the stories that were handed down about the creation of the Kurds.
Yes. This is the folklore in the Middle East of where the Kurds came from.
And Rick,
I always thought the Kurds, I just thought it means nomad. That's what I thought. I thought, okay, it's like Bedouin. Okay, they're Bedouins, they're nomads. But I had no idea that there was this Kabbalah connection.
Well, in addition to what we've already said about the Kabbalah connection, there's a professor from the University of Calgary that I found today. His name is Eliezer Segal. He's the professor of Department of Classics and Religion at the University of Calgary. He wrote a piece called The King Solomon's Genie. And what he laid out in here, Rick, is specifically that the notion that King Solomon had command over the beasts of the earth and the birds, and he made the assertion here that the Talmud made the claim that King Solomon commanded jinn, genies. This is in the Midrash, according to Professor Segal. And why this is important is we look at this unbiblical fable that we referenced here and spoke about, that's reportedly referenced and quoted by many Jewish scholars. Well, according to Professor Segal, in part, that fable was passed down through the Talmud.
Right.
That's what has preserved this. That's what has brought it forward. And arguably now it's the group, as you notice, the chief rabbi in Israel is advocating for the protection of the Kurds. Could it be part of the argument to defend and potentially deploy Israeli forces to defend the Kurds? The argument could be they're using this fable to sell the idea. We know that they've used these fables in the past to protect, let's say, Prime Minister Netanyahu. Remember the stalemate of the election.
Yes, but this fable goes back a long time. This has been in Jewish folklore for a long, long time. There's something here that has some meat to this story. They didn't just make it up.
No.
But I know where you're going with this, that they're using it. But this one story here, this is from the Forward website. Secret friendship behind Israel's support of Kurdish independence. This is 2017. It quotes Eliezer Gehazi, Mossad station chief, Kurdistan, the mid-1970s. He's talking about the Kurds. He said, they're good people. They share the same values as Jews. He goes on to talk about, he said, this is in the 1960s, he said, the relationship between the Kurds and the Jews has a historical aspect. In the mid-60s, Mullah Barzani the first leader of the modern Kurdish independent movement, flew to Israel to ask Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion for support. Gehazi laughed. He said, "They ask us for machine guns." And then he makes a comment in here that he described the, here it is. He laughed. He said, he's talking, this is a quote of a Kurdish leader. This Kurdish leader, and this is in the 1970s, he laughed. He said, "The Israelis are our cousins."
Yes.
Why would a Kurdish commando call the Israelis a cousin?
Because of that common King Solomon interest there, in the sense that the Kurds are descendants of of King Solomon's kingdom. They're not, directly related, but they're cousins. But
their mamas were Jewish.
Right.
And if you have a Jewish mama, you're Jewish, right?
Right. So the Kurds could claim Jewish.
But their fathers were demons. According to the folklore, I didn't make this up. The fable says that the Kurds were born from Jewish mamas, from King Solomon's harem, but the men were not human; they were demons. They were genies.
So therefore, in the minds of the Kurds and in the minds of maybe some in Israel, the Kurds are Jews.
But do the Zionist Jews know something about the family tree? In their Kabbalah Talmudic books, do they know something about the family tree? That, hey, a couple thousand years ago, King Solomon, what he ended up allowing to happen here produced a whole race of people born of Jewish women and demons. Do they know that? That's where I'm going with this.
Well, they definitely knew it enough to allow a lot of Kurdish Jews to emigrate back to Israel.
If you say it today, people laugh at it. Oh, what a crazy story, Demons having sex with women, human women. Yeah, the Bible calls this is Nephilim. Fallen angels. Fallen angels had sex with human women. All right? The offspring's called Nephilim.
And then it happened again during King Solomon's time.
Yes.
Or at least that's the fable.
And the modern day Jews are protecting their cousins.
Well, that would make a whole lot of sense, wouldn't it? It just occurred to me, the president over the past day and a half, when he has spoken about the Kurds, he's used a phrase. What was the phrase?
They're no angels.
They're no angels. Yes. He said that 4 or 5 times.
Maybe they're fallen angels.
Well, that's what I got to thinking. Maybe
that's evil dog talking there.
But
he said it a couple times.
Maybe he's been told the story. Maybe he's been told about this history of the Kurds.
They're descendants of fallen angels. I've never heard
as far as the fable is concerned,
yes,
we don't believe that they're descendants of fallen angels, but that's what they believe. That's the fable.
That's what the Jews believe.
Right.
That's what the Kabbalah Jews. Most Jews aren't Kabbalah practicing Jews.
But if they can claim an affinity of some or a relation of some kind that says that the Kurds are descended from the Jews, then that makes them a protectorate. And there's also another phrase that has come up we started seeing it yesterday and then in other articles today, where the potential of a development of Kurdistan, a state of Kurdistan, would be like a second Israel.
Yes, they've used this terminology.
It's all over the place. A second Israel. And when we first started looking at this, what are you talking about, a second Israel? They're not Jews. Well, what we're seeing today is they may not be Jews as far as religion is concerned, but maybe in the thinking of a lot of folks back in Israel and
America.
Maybe they are thinking of the Kurds as Jews that need to be protected.